Not every move is a good move, especially when real estate's involved. Back in 2021, we did a top 10 list about states people regret moving to. I thought since it was a popular video, we could expand and update and see which states are almost guaranteed to be a bad move. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 20, Kansas, the land of boredom. So you're thinking about moving to Kansas. Bold move. If you've ever wondered what it's like to live inside a circus that has no clowns, animals, or acrobats, this is your chance. Kansas is where dreams and adventures go to nap. There's nothing going on here, and it is flat. And when I say flat, I mean flatter than a pancake run over by a steamroller, driven by a sumo wrestler with a quirky thyroid. The good news about that is you'll never get altitude sickness, and you don't have to worry about driving windy mountain roads. The weather in Kansas is a little tricky. It's like a passive-aggressive roommate. One minute it's sunny and calm, and the next, a tornado is rearranging your furniture and your neighborhood. Speaking of which, have you heard of Tornado Alley? Spoiler alert, it's smack dab in the middle of it. Hope you're into storm chasing as a hobby. That's about the most exciting thing that goes on here. This is a state that one time tried to outlaw teal for football jerseys. Just too exciting of a color, I guess. Don't want to wear that at night. Let's talk about the nightlife here. Oh wait, there isn't any. Your options are limited to watching tumbleweeds drift by and attending the annual corn festival. If you're looking for culture, Kansas is culturally rich as a plain slice of bread is. The biggest complaint people have about Kansas is just that, it's boring. So a lot of people will move there and they pretty much go stir crazy. They last a couple years and they leave. The only people that stay once they move there are retirees because it's cheap, affordable, and they're not looking for a ton of excitement. Number 19, Nevada. The one thing you need to know about Nevada is it's a lot more than just Vegas. And that's one of their biggest problems. Everyone just thinks it's Vegas, baby. But spoiler alert, 99% of the state is desert, and not that fun kind with camels and Instagrammable sand dunes and stuff like that. This is rocks and sagebrush. Mix in unbearable heat and enough rattlesnakes to star in their own reality show. Let's talk about the weather. You know that feeling when you open up an oven and the heat hits you in the face and you feel like you just lost your eyebrows? Yeah, that's called Nevada in the summer. And the winter? Sure, it gets cold, but snow? Forget about it unless you're in the mountains around the Reno, Carson City area. Even though a couple years ago, and it was a total rare thing, they did have some snow in Vegas. I have friends that live there, and they all put pictures of it up on Facebook. Pretty interesting when weird things like that happen. Looking for jobs? Good luck if you're not into gambling or serving people who are. Vegas might be exciting for a weekend, but living there full time, you'll quickly realize that the neon lights don't pay the electric bill. Now, not everyone works in Vegas, and I understand that. There's a lot of other jobs, but this state is built on tourism and government workers. That's about it. That's a majority of the jobs. The big reason people regret moving to Nevada is most of the time because when they get there, it's more expensive than they thought it was going to be. And a lot of people, they don't dig that heat. After they do it a couple years, that's it. They're done. Number 18, Mississippi, the Magnolia Misstep. Moving to Mississippi in 2025, bless your heart, as they say down there. Translation, you poor soul. First, you'll be thrilled to know that it ranks near the bottom in education, healthcare, and just about every other category that matters except for fried food places per capita. The humidity alone is to make you regret life. I used to go there in the summers all the time. Families from there and stuff, and I would spend summers near the Chunky River, which is up near Meridian. And that humidity was suffocating. I couldn't take it. And then there's the bugs. Mississippi mosquitoes don't just bite, they straight up mug you. Economically, Mississippi is what you'd call a fixer-upper. But no one seems to have the plan or a hammer. Jobs are scarce unless you're into agriculture, catfish farming, or working at one of the casinos dotting the Gulf Coast. Now, when it comes to culture, sure, they've got the blues and southern charm. After that, it doesn't have many redeeming qualities. One of the biggest reasons people move to Mississippi is to save some money, and then they realize why it's so cheap is because they have such high poverty. Nobody there has money. Shouldn't say nobody, but most of the people. This state has one of the highest poverty rates in the country. Mississippi has the second highest poverty rate in the United States. 17.8% of their population lives below the poverty line. The only one to beat them is New Mexico with 18.2. So, if they just apply themselves a little bit more, they can catch up. And just so you know, the lowest are Utah with 7.1 and New Hampshire, again, with 7.1. But people move to Mississippi, they see the poverty and they see what's going on there. Then they go by Jackson, Mississippi, and they just start packing up that day. Number 17, Alaska, the cold shoulder. Let's get one thing straight. Alaska is not for the faint of heart or the easily bored. Moving to Alaska means you voluntarily signed up for months of darkness, freezing temperatures, and grocery prices so high that you'll think the cashier is pranking you. Oh, but you think it's the nature that's drawing you in and you're fine with all that. That's great because it's basically all you have. Trees, mountains, and bears that want to eat you. Alaska is an outdoor enthusiast's dream until you're snowed in for 6 months and questioning all your life choices. Jobs, unless you're into fishing, oil, or being a survivalist, it's slim pickings. Also, have fun making friends with your nearest neighbor, which is probably 20 miles away and only reachable by sled dog. And did I mention mosquitoes? Yes, even Alaska has them, and they're the size of a small aircraft. Most people joke around that it's the unofficial state bird. Probably should be. A lot of people have great ideas about moving there. Then when they move to Alaska, even in Anchorage and places like that, it's a little bit harder on people. You got to be a special breed of person to move to Alaska, even in the cities. And that's why people regret moving there. "16, West Virginia, almost heaven, not quite." West Virginia might sound charming with its rolling hills and country roads nostalgia, but let's be real. Those country roads are mostly potholed and connected by a patchwork of asphalt. Moving here feels like you're stepping back in a time machine that's permanently stuck in 1975, and if you go into the haulers, it's stuck in the Great Depression. Economically, let's just say it's not exactly booming. Coal mining is the lifeblood of this state, but as we all know, and I've talked about several times, coal isn't exactly trending in 2025. Job opportunities are about as rare as a Wi-Fi signal in the Appalachian Mountains. And speaking of those mountains, they're gorgeous until you have to drive through them in the winter. Let's just say the roads here can turn into Olympic-level sport that combines skiing and bumper cars. Now, the good things about West Virginia, it's a beautiful state. Can't beat that. They've got some wonderful small towns. They also have some pretty freaking scary ones, and they've got a serious problem with drug use. Don't expect a whole bunch of big city amenities unless your idea of a night out on the town is going to Walmart. Number 15, Louisiana, Bayou Blues. Louisiana, land of jazz, gumbo, and enough humidity to make your hair declare war on you. Moving here might seem like a good idea if you love Cajun food and Mardi Gras, but unless you're planning on partying 24/7, you'll quickly discover the downside. Let's talk about the weather. It's not just hot, it's swamp hot. Imagine living in a sauna that also happens to be infested with mosquitoes the size of grapes. And don't forget the hurricane season, Mother Nature's annual surprise for Louisiana. It's especially fun surprise if you live in a flood zone. Jobs, sure they got them, oil, fishing, and tourism, but good luck finding any stability. The economy here swings like a jazz musician's trumpet solo, unpredictable and often out of tune. And then there's the infrastructure. Roads here are less smooth highways and more hold on to your teeth, Elma. We're about to hit another pothole. And the schools? Let's just say they're not exactly winning gold stars. Finally, while the food is amazing, you'll quickly realize that you can't live on po' boys and jambalaya alone, although you probably would try. If you move to Louisiana or New Orleans, you will gain weight. I promise you that. I know I did. But the biggest reason people regret moving to Louisiana is normally the economy and the jobs. The jobs never really pan out, or they've got a ton of seasonal jobs. It's a tourist state, really. Number 14, Oklahoma, where the wind blows your patience away. Oklahoma, where the winds come sweeping down the plains and takes your will to live with it. The state might be ideal for tornado enthusiasts, but for everyone else, it's a bit of a hard sell. First off, the weather. It's a roulette wheel of misery. Tornadoes in the spring, blistering heat in the summer, and ice storms in the winter. You'll experience all 4 seasons in a week, and none of them are pleasant. Like Kansas and a lot of other states this part of the country, you better be into oil or agriculture, or you're going to have a hard time finding a job. Now, the good news, there's a lot of tech moving into Tulsa, so that might be an option. It's growing. I wouldn't say it's a really big tech scene yet, but there are companies that are offering people money to move there. Then you got the cultural lifestyle there. If you're moving from a big city state like California, New York, or let's say even Florida, you might be surprised what you see there. A lot of cowboy hats and endless country music festivals. Yeah, a lot of people will move to Oklahoma, especially now because houses are really affordable there and the cost of living is pretty low. But in a weird way, it's kind of like Alaska. You got to be a different type of person to live there. It's got a lot of environmental hardships you got to go through to live in Oklahoma. Number 13, Kentucky, the Bluegrass Blues. Oh, Kentucky, home of bourbon, horse racing, and not much else. Moving here sounds romantic until you realize it's mostly rolling hills and endless debates over which fried chicken joint is superior. First up, the weather. Kentucky has mastered the art of humid summers and icy winters. It's nature's cruel joke, and you're the punchline. Summers will have you drenched in sweat, while winters will have you sliding down your driveway like it's an Olympic luge event. Jobs? Well, if you're not into bourbon making and horse training, options are a little thin. The economy here is like a horse race, unpredictable and prone to stumbling. Culturally, it's charming, sure, but charm wears thin when your weekend plans are limited to state fairs and watching grass grow, literally. Finally, the people in Kentucky are friendly folks and ready to have a conversation with you anytime. The problem is, they always want to talk about politics, it seems. That has been a major problem with people that have moved to Kentucky. It's actually been listed and surveyed several times. It's just one of those states where everyone talks about politics. Now, I'm sure some locals are going to say, no, that's not how it is, or something like that. Well, that's how it isn't for you, but a lot of people in different surveys have said, yeah, they were a little taken back by the open political discord in Kentucky. Number 12, Arkansas, the natural mist state. Arkansas is called the natural state, and that's great if you like to go hiking and be in the wilderness with mosquitoes the size of pigeons, or fishing in lakes that come with a side of toxic runoff. It's great, it's natural. Let's talk about the weather. Summers are like living in a slow cook, and the winter is just cold enough to make your pipes freeze, but not cold enough for any magical snow days or anything like that. Tornadoes, of course, another state that gets them. They love showing up in Arkansas. The economy isn't exactly thriving here either, unless you're into farming or chicken processing. You'll wake up most days thinking, why did I move here again? Walmart's headquarters is here, but unless you have a degree in corporate espionage, good luck landing a cushy job. No, Arkansas, culturally, I've always found strange. I find it to be half Southern and half Midwest. It's got this weird thing to it. It's not like the other Southern states. It's just got a little, I don't know, it's weird. Like I said, Midwest and Southern, it's a mix here. And the roads here. One other thing I should mention, I've experienced this before. The roads are so bad. You'd think their roads were laid out by a drunk roller coaster enthusiast with a Sharpie. Number 11, Alabama. Sweet home that really isn't. If you enjoy heat, humidity, and football rivalries so intense it makes politics look civil, you'll enjoy Alabama because they're all about that. Alabama's charm wears thin faster than a cheap pair of flip-flops in August. It's a really strange state. These people know how to party and they know how to have a good time. They really do love their football. They, in most cases, love going to church. They seem to be really into Southern history and sweet tea. If you're into those places, it's a great place to live until you start talking about the weather. Summer, it's a sauna on steroids. You'll spend 90% of your time sweating and the other 10% swatting bugs. Winter is mild, sure, but it also has tornadoes that decide to show up every once in a while. The economy isn't exactly thriving unless you're into agriculture again or manufacturing. And even then, you'll quickly discover that the right to work law means it's the right to work for less money. Alabama is ranked third out of all 50 states for having the most residents working on minimum wage or less. Yeah, believe it or not, there is a less than minimum wage. Then you got to look at the infrastructure. It looks like someone used it for target practice They're dropping artillery and mortar shells all over the roads here. And then education, other than the universities, Alabama consistently ranks near the bottom when it comes to education. Now, a lot of people will move to Alabama because it's really affordable. Homes are affordable, the cost of living is affordable, and it's not Mississippi. But when they get there and they live there for a while, they realize it is almost Mississippi. Number 10, Georgia. Peaches, pride, and potholes. Georgia's often associated with peaches and southern charm, but when you dig a little deeper, you'll find that there's plenty of reasons to think twice. Sure, Atlanta is a booming city, but outside of Atlanta, well, it's like stepping back in time, and not in a fun way either. The traffic in Atlanta alone is enough for you to scream in terror in your pillow in the middle of the night when you think about driving to work. Want to go 5 miles? You better budget an hour. Summer in Georgia is a special kind of punishment. Imagine a steam room where the steam is made up of pure mosquitoes. Yes, I did basic training in Georgia during the summer. If I would have known, I would have joined the Navy. Now, the good thing about Georgia, the job market isn't bad, but it's incredibly competitive. If you're not into tech, healthcare, or agriculture, you'll find yourself asking, why did I leave my last job again? Another thing I want to mention, because I remember it from basic training and the other times I went back to Georgia, the gnats. The gnats are horrible. It's not just the mosquito. These little gnats, they're always in your frickin' face. Can't stand them. These tiny winged terrors are everywhere, and they're relentless. You'll be swatting at them so often you might accidentally start a new workout trend. Yeah, a lot of people will move to Georgia and they regret it because most of them are moving to Atlanta. And Atlanta, it is a nice city, but the job market is very competitive. You might end up taking something lesser than you were hoping just to get your foot in the door someplace. Outside of Atlanta, just about every other place is just nothing but minimum wage jobs or barely livable wage. Number 9, Arizona, where dreams melt like ice cream. Arizona sounds great on paper, beautiful sunsets, no snow, and plenty of wide open spaces, but the reality is, it's like living on the surface of the sun. Summers are so hot, your shoes will literally melt if you leave them outside. That isn't a joke. The dry heat BS everyone talks about, it's still heat. Imagine sticking your head in the oven and calling it refreshing. And if you're in Phoenix, good luck with the traffic there. It's hot, your air conditioning's running. It's a sprawling mess of highways that somehow still manage to get congested. Water? Yeah, that's a problem here. Droughts are about as common as cacti, and the water restrictions will make you question if a long shower was really worth it. The jobs are decent though, especially in healthcare and tech. That's a good thing. But wages don't always match the cost of living here, which has been climbing faster than the summer temperatures. Plus, the housing market is so tight, you wonder if you should just buy an RV. Then, of course, you got scorpions and rattlesnakes. That's always exciting. Now, why do people regret moving to Arizona? A lot of time it's going to be the weather, but the housing is climbing faster and faster every single year. They got more people moving in every single year, and they're not building enough houses. Number 8, Missouri, the show me state of regret. Now, Missouri's kind of strange. We never talk about it on this channel. It never comes up unless we're talking about something to do with St. Louis. But Missouri is smack dab in the middle of the country, and that's exactly how it feels, stuck in the middle. You'll get a little bit of everything, humidity, snow, tornadoes, and none of it enjoyable. I think the reason we don't talk about Missouri that often is they don't have anything that really, brings them up to the top on a positive list. And all their negatives aren't as bad as, a whole bunch of other ones. So they're right there in the middle of suckage. St. Louis and Kansas City are decent enough, but the rest of the state, well, let's just say it's not exactly buzzing with excitement. If you're looking for nightlife, you'll sorely be disappointed unless your idea of fun is a local bar that closes at 10 p.m. The weather is unpredictable at best. One day it's sunny, the next day it's storming, and by the weekend you'll probably be scraping ice off your car. And let's not forget the flooding, because they get a lot of it. The rivers here love to escape their banks, get into your lawn, take your car away. This is another state that has pretty harsh humidity. I mean, they got a lot of water throughout this state, so that just helps the humidity climb. It's kind of rough. Number 7, Indiana, the crossroads to nowhere. Indiana prides itself on being the crossroads of America, but that's just a fancy way of saying Everyone drives through this place to get someplace else. If you like cornfields, this might be the state for you. Otherwise, it's a bit of a snooze fest. The weather is nothing to write home about. Summers are hot and sticky, winters are cold and gray, and spring is basically one long allergy attack. Tornadoes? Yep, they've got them here too. Jobs are okay if you're into manufacturing and, again, agriculture. But don't expect a booming economy. The cost of living is low, which is great because you won't be making much money anyway. Historically, it's not really a hot spot. Unless you're into high school basketball and country fairs, that's really all they talk about here. Your entertainment options are limited. This is another state that is horribly flat and boring. But if you're afraid of heights, might be a great thing for you. So why do people move here? Well, they don't get paid a lot. So if you come here looking for a job, you're going to be a little disappointed. Now, if you've been hired by a company that's there, you already know what you're in for, but you won't be making a bunch of money. Luckily, the cost of living is low, so it might wash out in the end. Number 6, South Carolina, the mosquito magnet. Yeah, South Carolina is pretty rough with those. South Carolina has some great beaches, but don't let that fool you. The moment you step outside, you'll be greeted by an army of mosquitoes that seem to have been training for this day for years. Combine that with the humidity, and you've got a recipe for misery. The infrastructure here leaves a lot to be desired. Roads here are riddled with potholes, and traffic in cities like Charleston is enough to make you want to swim to work instead. Jobs are decent, so you got to give South Carolina that. This is another state that their education system isn't really winning any awards. Then there's the weather. Hurricanes love South Carolina like a pirate loves his rum. If you're not dealing with flooding, you're probably sweating through your 4th shirt of the day. And let's not forget the wildlife, alligators, snakes, and bugs galore. Your backyard will feel more like a nature documentary than a relaxing retreat. So why do people leave there? South Carolina's got some crime, and outside of Charleston and Bluffton and a few other places, the state's not all it's cracked up to be. Those are the things you always hear about, but everything else is just kind of not good. And that's why people regret moving there. Number 5, Michigan, the Great Lake regret. Michigan might sound appealing with its beautiful Great Lakes and vibrant autumns, but once you dig a little deeper, you start to understand why this state made the list. First of all, the weather. Winters in Michigan, it's cold, like a full-blown assault cold on your senses. The lake effect snow will bury your car faster than you can find your ice scraper. Summers are better, but they come with the mosquitoes as well. A lot of people don't realize it, but Michigan is one of those mosquito states. They just have so much water. In the summer, they come out, and you can't escape them. Jobs in Michigan are heavily dependent on the auto industry. And while it's recovering right now, which it is, the job market isn't exactly booming yet. Give it a handful of years. But if you're not in engineering or manufacturing, you might find your options limited. Infrastructure is another sore spot here. Roads are riddled with potholes, and driving feels more like an obstacle course. Of course, I've talked about it just recently, Flint's water crisis and Detroit. Detroit is getting better, believe it or not. After being the bottom of the barrel of major cities for a long time, they've made great strides. Another problem, Michigan's got some pollution problems, especially when it comes to their water, so that's a big problem. But one of the main reasons people move to Michigan and they leave is their winters. The winters are rough. They move up there, they think it's going to be okay, but then they spend a couple Michigan winters and they're done and they leave. Number 4, Florida, land of sunshine and regret. Florida, where the beaches are sunny, the gators are plenty, and the chaos never ends. If you're dreaming about a tropical paradise, Florida might just be your nightmare in disguise. First, the weather. Sure, it's warm, but it's also humid enough to make you feel like you're living in a wet sock. And of course, another state, hurricane season. A thrilling 6-month period where you'll play Will My House Survive This Year? The cost of living here isn't terrible, but good luck finding affordable housing in cities like Miami and Orlando. And speaking of Miami, the traffic here is legendary. Not as bad as Los Angeles, Boston, and San Francisco, but it's up there. It's always in the top 10. Florida's wildlife deserves its own section in this video. It's like living in a nature documentary where you're always in danger of being the prey. And let's not forget the infamous Florida Man, the mythical figure that will ensure your local news is never boring, but it might make you question why you actually moved to Florida. Florida's got a lot of things going on. Number one, if you buy a house, it's not terribly expensive, but things like insurance will destroy your monthly budget. Insurance is a big problem in Florida. Now, there's also political reasons that a lot of people have been moving there and then they change their mind and they move back. And normally they move back towards New York or something like that, end up in South Carolina or Georgia. Number 3, California, the Sunshine Tax State. California has it all: beaches, mountains, deserts, and a cost of living that makes you throw up in your mouth a little bit. The Golden State nickname must refer to the amount of gold you'll need to afford a house here. It is expensive. Then, of course, there's the traffic. Ever spent 3 hours traveling 20 miles? Welcome to Los Angeles. And if you think public transit will save you, let's just say it's not exactly world class. Actually, for a major city, it has a horrible public transit system. Then there's the housing market. Even a 1-bedroom apartment in a semi-decent area will cost you more than a mortgage on a 4-bedroom house in most states. Want to buy a house? Better win the frickin' lottery. California's natural beauty is undeniable, but it comes with a catch: wildfires, which Los Angeles is dealing with right now, droughts, and earthquakes. You'll experience all elements, often in the most catastrophic way. They got plenty of jobs, especially in tech and entertainment, but the competition is fierce and the cost of living will eat up your paycheck. Most people move there and that's why they leave: the cost of living. They've got a homeless situation that is getting better over the last 2 years, but it's still a problem. So homeless and the cost of living is what's killing people here, and that's what's making them leave. Number 2, Texas. Every regret is bigger in Texas, as they say. Actually, the saying is everything is bigger in Texas, and that includes the reasons you might regret moving there. The Lone Star State is a mixed bag of scorching heat, endless highways, and political debates hotter than summer asphalt. The weather is no joke. Summers are brutal, with temperatures regularly exceeding 100 degrees. And if you think winter will bring you relief, surprise! Texas winters can bring ice storms that shut down entire cities. Traffic in cities like Houston and Dallas are nightmares, and the public transit is almost non-existent. They don't really do that in Texas. I hope you like spending half your life stuck in traffic. Housing is relatively affordable compared to other states, especially when you compare it to other popular states, but property taxes will make sure you're not too comfortable. And don't forget about the occasional hailstorm that can turn your car into a dimpled mess. A lot of people leave there just because the weather, that's the main thing. And then politics do play a part of it. A lot of people will leave because of the politics and all the nonsense. But for the most part, it's going to be the weather. All right, before we get to number 1, if you haven't subscribed to this channel already, please do so. And don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, New York. The Empire State of Stress. New York City might be the city that never sleeps, but the state itself will make you want to hibernate. Between high costs, overcrowding, and harsh winters, New York earns the top spot on this list. Let's start with New York City. Rent prices are astronomical, and even a studio apartment will drain your bank account. And if you're thinking about escaping to upstate New York, you'll trade in sky-high rents for bone-chilling winters and limited job opportunities. The traffic is legendary, and public transit, while extensive, comes with delays, overcrowding, and the occasional subway rat to keep things interesting. Winters are harsh, with snowstorms that turn roads into ice rinks, and summers hot, sticky, and full of tourists. The main reason people regret moving to New York State is because most of them moved to New York City, and then they just realize the cost of living is astronomical and painful, and they can't do it, so they leave. They end up across the river in New Jersey. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, be nice to each other.